Welcome to the 1000 Hours Outside podcast. Special guest today is Erin. Welcome.
Oh, Jenny, you are the best. Oh,
All
thank
right.
you for having me.
It's Erin Loechner. Did I say that right?
Yes, great. It's a hard one. You did great.
I paused right at the beginning because I should have asked before we started.
Oh, stop.
Whoops. It's like an amateur mistake. Erin Loechner, but it's spelled Loechner.
That's right.
Um,
That's right. I
and
just feel like, time out. I feel like I need to say for your listeners. So we've met in person, Jenny.
yes, we
You know how everybody always wonders in the back of your head, like, is this person as great in real life as I think they
Aw.
are? You are. I love every bit of you.
Okay, I feel the same about you. I wanna read your bio and then I wanna tell people how we met.
Okay.
Because it's a story, I think. Okay, so Erin is a phenomenal writer. Phenomenal. So she has a blog and she has a book. I'm going to hold it up here because sometimes people watch the video called Chasing Slow Courage to Journey Off the Beaten Path, which I have fallen in love with this beautiful book. So throughout this whole podcast, people will get a good feel for your writing because here's how it starts. She says, by day, I change diapers and write essays and design products and answer emails. I speak at international events, say another prayer, brew another coffee. By day, I travel the world or at least the grocery. I read another chapter and kiss another skinned knee and battle another bad habit. I fry bacon. I change my outfit. I refill my husband's water glass and then style lookbooks and sing lullabies and search for that ubiquitous missing sock yet again. By night, I write it all down here. Wow. Wow. Erin,
Oh.
I love your writing. So, Erin is the author of Chasing Slow, which is this courage to journey off the beaten path. She's the founder of an international homeschooling co op called Other Goose, which is so catchy. Come on, Other Goose. How cute. She's been blogging and speaking for more than a decade. Her heartfelt writing and design work has been showcased in the New York Times, Lucky, Parenting, Dwell, Marie Claire, Elle Decor, Huffington Post, and a two-season HGTV.com web special, garnering over 1 million fans worldwide. She's spoken for and appeared in renowned international events for clients such as Walt Disney, IKEA, Martha Stewart, and Home Depot. She's now settled in a Midwestern town, not far from us, actually. Erin, her husband, and three kids, right?
Yes, three
Three
now.
kids strive for less in more areas except three: joy, grace, and goat cheese. So I love that
Oh.
intro. Okay, so can I tell you? I want to tell you my path to you. Okay, so you know how you're gonna totally relate, I think. Like you just have so many things going on, right? It's like all the pots are boiling, and so we're just in this season. We're just trying to kind of get through the day. And Ainsley, who's the founder of Wild and Free, which is a fabulous group and movement, and the conference is so fun. She had reached out to see if I would speak at the conference this past year in Tennessee, which I was so excited about. And so then she passed me off to you. And there wasn't sort of any introduction, or it was just all of a sudden, like I said yes. And then I'm getting emails from Miss Erin. Like, Erin. I'm just kind of like reading through. And so after a couple, Erin, I was like, wait, I'm like, this person is really good at what they do. It was kind of like that. Like I got, maybe it was like email three and then I started getting text messages and I was like, hold on. Like, who is this person? I'm getting these messages and like you're just on top of things and everything is communicated so well. So then I like scroll down and I was like, all these things, author. I'm like, who is this? And then we met in person and you didn't really talk about all those things. Like you've been on TV and you have a book and you do but you're so hospitable. I don't know. It's so so then I got home and I ordered the book and I was like, why didn't she tell me all this stuff? I was so blown away by your accomplishments and yet also you didn't even talk about them. You were just like you. which kind of fits with the
Oh,
book. And then
Jenny.
I put up one of your quotes the other day, and then I start getting text messages from my friends. They're like, "Wait, Erin Loechner?" I was like, "Yep, yep, yeah, that's her." I was like, I get some extra cool points with my friends. So my house is not like HGTV worthy. And so
Stop.
I don't run in that circle. And so I just had kind of missed. I had missed your amazingness for this
Oh my
past couple
gosh.
years. So
Well, and I'm old, so like,
you're
there
not.
I think there's just layers of the internet, it just I'm just
Well, you're
from
in your
1.0.
circle. I think a lot of
And you
times you're in your
are.
circle, and sometimes your circles don't collide. And so then our
Yeah.
circles collided. But I just was so amazed. Well, first of all, how good you were at what you did. Like
Mm.
it's like you stop it stopped me in my tracks. Just and then secondly, I guess how humble you are about it because you weren't telling yeah, you didn't tell me much about it. And then third, you're just that type of person that I used to think that hospitality meant like, you let people into your home, but then someone said hospitality is how you make people feel. Like you just have this
Oh,
gift of making people feel welcome. So, um
you.
I'm so glad our paths have crossed.
I am so glad too. I just love everything about you. And I don't spend very much time on the internet. And this is one of those times where it's like, oh, this is a bummer. I should spend more time on the internet just only to get Jenny glimpses. I
Aw,
just think you are so, I feel the same way about you. I think you're so warm and fun and just a delight. I loved your whole family, obviously.
you're so sweet. It was a
Mm.
really fun circumstance to meet each other, and
Yeah.
the Wild and Free conference was so fun, and you just did such a fabulous job at um, piecing all those things together. It was a lot. So,
Thank you. Oh,
um, so I just read your book. I read it over the weekend. I'm
I
going to
love
hold it up
it.
here, and this podcast is going to come out in December. So this is going to be the perfect time heading into the holidays, probably in the midst of the holidays, really, and then heading into a new year. But it's called Chasing Slow Courage to Journey Off the Beaten Path. And the first thing is, I have never seen a book that is so cool looking in my entire life, literally.
Oh, thank you.
Erin, come on. This is amazing.
Oh, look at all
There's
your
like,
notes.
look
Look
at
at all
all
your
this.
notes
I'm
and
a
all your
writer.
underlines. Oh, I
Look at how
love book
beautiful
writers.
this. It's a beautiful book.
Thank
I've never
you.
seen anything like it. So it came and I was like, "Oh, I love this." And
Thank
then I
you.
read it and it was different than what I was expecting it to be.
That's what everybody says.
Yeah. I was expecting it to be instructions for me on how to slow down, which I feel like we all need, and that was in there, but it was in this envelope of, "Oh, I relate to this." It
Mm,
was just it's such a beautiful It's a beautiful book.
thank
I was
you.
engaged from beginning to end. I mean, and your writing is so entertaining. Like even there was one little sentence that said, "At dinner, the reheated kind." Things like that. Like these little things where you're like, "Oh, I really relate to that."
Oh, thank you for
So,
saying that. Oh, it was so much fun to write. I love, love, love writing. And this was a fun one to write because it felt like I don't want to give people answers. I just wanted to kind of lead them to their own, you know,
yeah.
I really
Yeah.
wanted to. So that
Yeah, and
helps
you did
hearing you say
that.
that.
And just for people to say, "Oh, someone else feels the same way I do," or so
Hmm.
much of the book I thought, "Oh, I really relate to that." It made me think.
Oh,
I think I guess when people give you the answers, you don't think,
yes. Well, you
for
you
yourself.
can. You can. But I do think it's kind of the long way. It sort of forces people to take the long way home, they
Yeah,
have to really reconsider what things look like for their life and
yeah,
not the formula.
yeah. It was very thought provoking. Um, so let's see. I pulled out a couple. I pulled out a couple just topics from the book that I really loved. Um,
Okay.
and one of the ones that really stuck out to me was about measuring.
Mm,
And you said it is the surrender, the failure. It is the knowing that I will never know, the accepting what I can never accept, the understanding that I will never understand what it means to perfect the gig. In these again, again, again days for many parents, the pressure is extraordinary. There is an immense amount of information and theory on technique and tradition, articles floating around, proclaiming 100 things your toddler should know by now. And you say, it's a trap we all fall into, the temptation to measure our child's progress. And then you say, it is, after all, the only way we can measure our own.
Hmm.
What a big statement. So there's really a lot in those couple of sentences. Um, do you feel like there's a lot of pressure to measure our kids?
I do. And it's so funny because when I wrote that, my daughter was probably 2, 3 years old, and I hadn't even entered the homeschooling years truly. And I feel
Wow.
like the older they get, the more practiced we get at making sure we're not measuring them and kind of changing the game from a measurement to an observation, just here's what they are, here's what this is, uh, what next, kind of what now, almost approaching it with a curiosity rather than a critique.
Hmm.
And I didn't get that yet when they were toddlers. I don't know. I think I was so focused on, am I doing this right? Am I doing this right? Am I doing this right? And you really want to get it right. This is a big,
Yeah.
important job. And the only way that I knew was if she was turning out okay. But like, what does that even mean? And what does that look like to a toddler that
Right.
like freaks out over their shoelaces? So I just feel like that has been a huge growth moment for me when I could kind of separate my own identity from the identity of each of my kids and let them be them and let me be me and let us be a family.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there's so much pressure to measure. And I really like what you said at the end, that it maybe does stem back from it's a measurement of ourselves. And so then
Hmm.
there's that extra layer of pressure. We look
Yes.
around, but then it also is a reflection of our own capabilities. Or yeah, I don't even know. My 8-year old was like holding scissors upside down today. It was just such a silly thing. We were like with other people. She was trying to open a box, and I was like, oh, like she doesn't know how to hold the scissors. Yeah, they're not working. They're upside down. And you feel like it's this reflection, and kind of, I guess it is, you
It's
know.
so funny, but you're right.
Yeah,
You're like, "Oh, I forgot to teach you that." Especially as a
yeah,
homeschooling parent, you think
yeah.
that, I mean, certainly the pressure is only on you. You can't you
Right,
can't
right,
blame the
right.
teacher for like, "Oh, you missed
Oh,
that unit,"
yeah,
for whatever.
know how to
It's
hold the
just
scissors day.
you. And
Yeah,
I think sometimes that is the beauty of it because you can't teach them everything. There are going to be huge gaps in their learning. And so it does almost, for me at least, help me release the idea that I have to instill everything in them and that sometimes
mm,
it's going to be up to them to self-educate, even on
yeah,
they'll learn the hard way how to hold the scissors, I suppose. But
right, right.
yeah, it's so scary. It's so big. It's so fraught. And I think that's probably going to be a lifelong struggle for so many of us. It's just,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
want them to do great. We want us to be great.
yeah. So you talked about when your daughter was 2 or 3. So tell us a little bit about your family. You've got 3 kids. I know one of them's real little right now, a 1-year-old, right?
Yeah.
Tell,
Yes.
tell us
Yes.
about tell us about your family.
So, daughter is, oh man, 9. I'm so terrible with the ages. She's 9 now. Um,
Mm,
9-year-old girl, 5-year-old boy, and surprise baby at the end. Our son is, they're all just so lovely.
mm-hmm.
My oldest daughter's very creative, very
Yeah.
independent, very strong willed. And then I have this sweet, sensitive boy in the middle. And then the baby is just kind of a racket. She's
Mm-hmm.
just, I don't know what we thought was going to happen when you throw that third into the mix, but she's a lot. She's a lot. We
Yeah.
always argue, like, my husband and I are like, do you want the older two easy ones or do you want the one big? She makes up for two kids,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
she just does. She's
Right.
just so much.
Yeah.
Um, but it's fine. It's a new season for us.
Yeah.
I feel like we're starting over again, and there's some beauty in that too.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
your book is about sort of this journey, and the motherhood piece kind of comes in more toward the end. Um, and you talk a lot about motherhood in there. So I want to talk about some of your quotes in a little bit. But um, one of the things I sort of related to is just this: things tend to snowball. I
Mm,
think this is one of the things that I caught in your book, where you're just sort of going along and you're doing the things that you're passionate about, the things that you're good at. but then all of a sudden it just becomes more and more, and work turns into more work, and commitments turn into more commitments, and then all of a sudden, you turn around and you find yourself swamped, and you don't have
Mhm.
space and you don't have margin. So can you tell us a little bit about, I don't know, just some highlights of your story and some of the really cool things that you've done?
Sure. Well, I started my blog in 2001, I want to say. I mean, just early heyday,
Yeah.
like
And this
Zeta.
is this is designed for mankind. Is that the that yeah.
Designformankind.com is my
Yep.
blog now. Yeah, it's had so many iterations. But
Okay.
yes, so I just have always journaled. I've always had that kind of as a hub of whatever creative project that I was pursuing at the time. And
Yeah. You're such a good writer.
thank you. I love writing. It's probably my number one favorite thing. But I mean, I'm sure you feel this way. When you're multi-passionate, you have a lot of things that you want to do. It does snowball, it does spill into. And I think my life work is kind of always trying to connect those threads together and
Hmm.
find where they overlap and sort of stay in that spot for long enough to see some sort of progress. But I moved to LA after I got married and became kind of a lot of side jobs. I had a lot of side jobs, but I started doing some gallery work. I started doing art directing just for friends here and there. I really
Hmm.
loved it. And I had not known that art and design was a thing. I grew up in a very small town in Indiana. It was like, you're going to be a nurse or a banker or a
Teacher.
teacher uh, or stay home mom. I don't know. It was like there were such limited options that I knew of,
Hmm.
So it felt like the world opened up to me, and I just really uh, fell in love with the design aspect and how do I kind of apply that to whatever my passions were, which has always been writing. So writing for hgtv.com was a natural outlet of that. Having that we eventually hosted a show about a renovation after moving back to the Midwest,
Hmm.
renovating our own house. With the pitch was simply, how do real people renovate, right? Because it's not this
Mm,
quick before and after.
yeah. Yeah.
It's not a commercial break and, oh, the flooring is finished. So
Yeah.
the dot
But
com show was really, what does it really look like when people try to renovate and they are learning as they go, right?
hmm
So it was so much fun. And I think everything that I've done in my life, I've learned to kind of apply to the next thing. So the next thing, the show made such less sense with the baby, which was my oldest daughter. When she was born, it's like we don't want to run power tools during nap time, and just all of it
hmm
felt like living in a photo shoot constantly. And I've never really uh I don't know, that's a kind of the part of the internet that I've always wanted to just say, this isn't quite real. This isn't quite real. This isn't quite real. I feel like I'm always banging that drum. And for me, needing to live life less on the internet has looked a lot like doing more things behind the scenes and more things, like volunteering at the conference or editing other people's books rather than writing my own. Just kind of sort of where my career path has taken me now, where the snowball has taken me now, has been
Yeah.
just a really beautiful relearning of who I want to be in this season and where I want to participate in the few hours that I have to give. And
Yeah.
um, so that's what it kind of looks like now. It looks less flashy for sure, but I love it. I love just the quieter life.
Yeah. I think that was a really big main encouragement, sort of a theme of your book, which is that, well, first of all, it's like, you know, it's such an amazing thing to be able to follow your passions. So I related to that, right? It's like we're following our passions, and then, sometimes it just becomes too much, though, sort of to carry. And so I like how you say you sort of have, you diversify, you find other ways to use your talents in ways that maybe aren't so burdensome, you
Hmm.
know, and like all of your stuff just really weaves together. Like you say, you want to be real,
Oh,
and in your book, you're so real. It's so
oh,
real, you
thank
know.
you.
You
Thank
say, I
you.
have made every attempt to manipulate my life. I mean, that's real because
Yeah,
everybody does that, but who really says it, you know?
totally.
So
Totally.
I can see it. Like, and you take this, you did such a good job of like taking a macro view of your life and and sort of showing the journey and the twists and turns. Um,
Thank
you know,
you.
I feel like one of the hardest pieces of life as a mom is that, like, sort of little by little, maybe you get time back, and it's
Hmm.
in such small amounts. It's really hard to figure out what to do with that time,
Jenny,
you
you're
know?
right. That's
And
the age-old
so,
question, right?
yeah, and so it's such a different thing. Um, so I like this lesson of meandering, and that
Yeah,
it's not all going to look the same. Um,
I
you said,
agree. Yeah.
I really like this. You said I believe motherhood could. You said something like I believed motherhood could be figured out. That taking care of newborns is simply a matter of routine, of expectations. It's a science, a formula. There's no room for veering. And you said motherhood is hard in a way I am ill prepared for, in the way that you must learn to sweep cereal bits off the floor without sweeping your own self right out the door with them. There is the crying from you and the baby, and the learning by you and the baby, and the growing of you and the baby. And you just talk about, like, you realize that, you want to have what you used to have. I so related to all of this: control, freedom, predictability, confidence, time, energy, and flexibility. All of those things are the things that you really lose. You
You
know,
do.
you use the and your life becomes beautiful in different ways, but you certainly lose control, freedom, predictability, confidence, time, energy, and flexibility. You lose all of it. Um, so I just like how you were real about that in your book, and you put words, I think, to people's actual experiences. Um,
Yeah. I mean, I think there's so much to be learned in looking at those losses. And I mean, of course, looking at the gains, we all know what those are. But I do also think being really realistic about what you do have left to give, both to yourself and to the people around you. I mean, when you talk about getting back time in short little increments, I have I have like a little me time formula. I'm such a formula person and I hate that about myself, but I'm trying
I
really
love it
hard
about you.
to be free. But I I have like a me time formula, which is just, when the baby's down for a nap, and my baby doesn't nap, but when you've got 20 minutes of her
Same,
screaming
same
in her
girl.
crib,
Hmm.
then I do what will help the me now, what will help present me, and what will help future me. And I try
Mm.
to split it 10 minutes and 10 minutes because I know I've only got 20 minutes
Wow.
before I got to get her out of the crib. So
Wow.
it's 10 minutes of filling up my tea,
Wow.
looking out the window, deep breaths, relax, and then 10 minutes of, I don't know, uh, thawing the chicken and unloading the dishwasher so that dinner isn't as crazy. Just I try
Yeah.
to kind of make it as realistic as possible, because if I'm over here saying there's no loss at all,
Hmm.
I have plenty of time to do it, and that's not my reality. I do
Yeah.
feel like my time is stretched. I think all of ours is.
Yeah.
So I like to kind of get really honest about what my life
Yeah.
looks like and what do I have the ability to change and control and manipulate as if I can.
Right.
Um, because I do believe, we do have a lot more control than we think we do, and we also have a lot less control over we think we do. And the game is
Hmm.
in figuring out which one is which.
Yeah. The game is about being present.
Duh.
I think
Yeah.
that's what you talk
Yes.
about in the book. Um, Yeah, and I love that. I think it's really important to be honest. I had a friend, so our youngest, sort of similar to you, is just really, um, a more challenging child in terms of how much she took, and she had like separation anxiety or something. I don't really know. I mean, that's not clinically diagnosed, but like she didn't want to be with anybody but me, and for a very, very long time, and so she actually didn't sleep through the night until she was in her fours, and
Oh,
um, that's a long time.
it's a
That's a
long
long
time.
time to not sleep through the night. And but I had a friend of mine whose child also didn't sleep through the night until he was almost 5. And so when she told me that, at first I was like, you're like, oh, I don't really want to hear that. But then you're like, oh wait, no, I really do want to hear that.
Mhm.
Because then that just helps me with my expectations. And it's like she survived, so I know I can survive. And um, So I just love that
Yes.
about you. I love that
Yes.
you are, I think moms need to know. Like, I think when we first have our babies, we think, well, we'll have control back when they're X age, or, we'll have our freedom back when they're, at this stage. And, at some point I'm going to have time and energy and predictability. And you don't. You
And
don't.
you
This is
probably, and you
beautiful.
might never, you really
I
might
think
never.
that's what I'm sort of thinking, because I see my friends who have older kids, and they're starting to get married, or they're and then on the phone all the time with the kid. I mean, it's just there's these different things, and then there's grandbabies, and um
It is. It's the whole like
so
small people, small problems, big people,
yeah,
big problems. I hear that all the
yeah.
time. And I actually love, I know people have mixed opinions about this, but I love, love, love when the old lady will stop you at the grocery store and say, remember this, be in this moment. This is important.
Mm, yeah,
I need it. I need that reminder
yeah,
because I do find myself always wishing away the season. And I know this one's hard. I know that.
yeah,
But the ladies in the grocery store are right. It's fleeting, it's fast.
yeah.
They'll get bigger and the problems get bigger and the glories get bigger. It
Hmm.
all expands.
Yeah,
But I think it's like if the process is the way it is, because if we just flash forwarded to the expansion, we would totally burst because we couldn't handle it. Like we
right,
have to
right.
release all that control in
Yeah,
small increments.
yeah. But helpful if someone comes along and just and helps you guide the way, like what you've done. You talk a lot about living in the present in the book. You said, I begin to learn to allow things to happen as they are rather than how I want them to be. I begin to learn quite simply the art of peace, which I think is beautiful. You talk about a little bit more about living in the present and um, sort of how you've learned to do that, or any sort of tips and tricks and what got you there.
Oh, I think for me, they always talk about finding your why,
Hmm.
whoever they is, right?
Yeah.
But I like to find my what too. So for me, it's helpful to know. I like to have some sort of ritual with each of my kids to look forward to, because I find that I can't stay in the present moment for very long.
Hmm.
I have small stretches of that, but the bulk of the day is, flipping the pancakes and thinking about something else and, whatever. So, I find that if I have that small ritual with which maybe it's playing checkers with my daughter after all the other kids are in bed, or maybe it's itsy bitsy spider with the baby, in the morning when nobody else is awake. Um,
Hmm.
it's for my son, like he's big into like Ninja Turtle anything, so it's talking about really anything Ninja Turtle related is fair game. But just sort of having that one ritual, that connection point,
Hmm.
that I can kind of rely on for the rest of the moments that feel too frenzied. I just kind of, in the back of my head, it's like, okay, well, we either have this moment to look forward to, or this moment of connection has actually already happened, so we're fine.
Yeah.
It's kind of a gauge of like, am I am I on track in terms of connecting with my kids in the mess of everything else that's happening in a day? Then the why comes into play for the times that those connecting points aren't happening, right? So
Mm.
it's if you have just some sort of inward refrain, like I have a friend who she's a member of Other Goose, and she always talks about how her only goal in parenting is to smile at her kids every time they walk in the room. She wants to just light
Oh,
up every
I
time
love
her
that.
kids walk into the room, no matter what. She wants them to know that she's happy to see them. And that has always stuck with me. That's her
Yeah.
why. I have another friend, her why is based on a Bible verse, and I have another friend whose why is based on a Plato quote. I mean, it's all different. But
Mhm.
I find that just sort of having that one mission to keep things in perspective, you kind of get the macro and the micro there. You get the
Yeah.
micro ritual
Yeah.
of here's that one connection point that I want to have, that
Yeah.
that outward expression, and then you have that inward sort of. For me, I just think of it, it's almost like on loop in my head. But that's really, I think that's kind of a convoluted way of saying that you really have to kind of hack presence sometimes. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
I am
Yeah,
not doing it well all the time. I
right.
wish it away at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
often
Sure.
when I'm rocking the baby.
Sure.
But I also feel like, I don't know, maybe it's just age. I just feel like you kind of chill out after a while, and you kind of realize, there's that idea that there is so much around you. There is so much in your head and all around in your focused viewpoint, and information available to you, and inspiration available to you, and to-do lists and all of that. It's almost as if there is so much that you only really truly can focus on the thing in front of you, or you'll
Hmm.
go mad.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the flip side of it for me, is I just try really hard to pay attention to where my hands are, and pay attention to where my feet are, and that's all I have control over right now, and that's just,
Yeah.
that is what it is. That does not mean that I can control my temper at all times. It just means, like,
Just trying to pay attention
you are
and
where
be
you are.
there. Well, I think it's interesting because the title of the book, just in and of itself, is just very profound because you have to chase the slow.
It's still
That
a chase.
chasing, you look at these different, well, on Instagram, let's say you look at these different Instagram accounts and you see these mothers that are, baking their sourdough and doing the little cuts and the little, and you just think, well, you even said it in your book, and I really relate, that it's it's simple, but it's not easy, right? The
Mhm.
concept is simple, to slow down, and but it's not easy to do.
And it
So,
doesn't look like the Instagram version, we
right,
we know that nothing does, but
right.
you're right. I found that, chasing slow is still a chase. I
Yes.
could still
And
put
chasing is
slow.
hard.
It is, and you can
Chasing
put
is
it
hard to do,
it's
right?
so hard. It's so
Yeah,
hard. You can
to
put it on a
run after
pedestal.
something, I mean, that's a hard thing to do. But,
Mhm.
I really liked, I just related to that, which is that, this is probably going to be an effort. I think from your book, that's what I got. It's like, you gave this macro view of a long period of your life, and in every period you're chasing it, right? You're chasing slowing down, um, because stuff's always, trying to creep in there and get added into your life or added to your plate. And
And you're not going
um,
to achieve it. You're not, I mean, you're not
right,
dead yet. So
right,
it's not
right,
it's not as if there's an after point. You're always in the during. And
yeah,
so it's you could there's a wide space between before and after. And I just think we are so quick to want to achieve slowness, and then think, oh, now we've arrived. But
right. Yeah,
that's
you even
false.
talk about that. Well, you say beauty is not found in the after, it's in the during. Oh, I
It is.
really like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we're just waiting, waiting, waiting for the after, but we're in the
Mhm.
during.
Right.
So I loved that. I love that
And there
title.
really is no after, because I think
Hmm.
it's every day is a choice to, am I going to I talk a lot about, I say this to my daughter all the time with her room. She's a pack rat, just like her husband, or like my husband. And I think I'm always telling her, like, it doesn't matter what you get rid of, it's what you don't add back in. It's
Sure.
not about,
This is like when you have a designer mom, a
I know,
stylish mom. I
that
love
poor
this,
girl.
Erin.
It's
That's
ridiculous.
fantastic.
But I'm like, you can get rid of everything in your room, but if you continue to add back in, it's always going to look like this. And that's, I mean, honestly, I'm past the point of caring. I just keep her door shut. But it is, it's something that I feel like I am constantly saying in terms of design, but I really haven't yet mastered in terms of life, right? Like,
Yeah.
we can clear our calendars a
Yes.
million times, but we're going to add that
Yes.
thing back in.
Yeah. And I think that's really tricky. I remember thinking like when, you know, like for years and years I couldn't go out in the evening. I got kids that are screaming or my husband travel for work or what have you. And then, then all of a sudden when you can go out in the evening, then everybody wants you to go to these different things. I don't really want to go to those things. But it's so then you really have to hold that boundary and you have to, I think it's a process of learning what new thing you want or don't want because it's new,
Uh-huh.
it's different than before you had kids and maybe you'd go out in the evenings and it wasn't a big deal.
Yes, it is.
Um, it's all
It's
different.
understanding that time is a luxury, and I think when
Yeah.
you place a higher value on it, you do tend to make those. It's a harder trade off. You know,
Yeah.
you think deeply about where you want to use your time. So it is almost easier to set those boundaries. But you're right. When it's easier to blame it on the kids and be like, I can't go, than what
Right.
happens when you can and you don't
Right.
want
And they're
to.
like, no thanks. I like you, but no thanks. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's just this constant process of change. And my life didn't change at all, really, up until I had kids. So then, I mean, it changed some, but you're kind of like you talk about, you're kind of like in charge of it all. Then all of a sudden, you're not in charge of
Uh-huh.
it all, and it's different.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, so you start this book and you say, I married a man with an expiration date.
Hmm.
Do you talk about this much?
I don't mind talking about it though. Yes. My husband's brain tumor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and is it something that you just get checked,
It's so funny. I believe I would go as far as to say, I mean, yes, he's easier for me to say because I'm not the one with it in my head, but he's very oddly great at gauging, when he feels a little off and paying attention to what exactly it feels like in his body. Um, and the doctor's last reference point for him was, you will know uh,
Mm,
when you need to come back in. So it went from a series of regular scans, to kind of prolonged periods of like, we don't think this thing is growing. We don't know what it's doing. You'll know before we know, sort of thing.
yeah.
So it was a really odd way to kind of kick things off, in a marriage, in a
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
But at the same time, maybe I've always been bent toward morbidity. I don't know. I felt like it, in one way, you would think that we would seize the day and live each moment, but it was still very regular. It was still like fighting over who's going to do the dishes that night, and just,
Well, right. I
uh,
mean, that was really interesting to me in your
yeah,
book because you sort of start with this married a man with an expiration date. So I assumed that that was going to be a theme, that you're like, oh, so I have this perspective, and but then it really wasn't that. It was just it's like life becomes this daily thing.
it's
Um,
still, yeah, it's still there. I mean, it's for me, it was that metaphor of that constant thing that is still there, that you don't have control over,
yeah,
that you so badly want to change and so
yeah,
badly want to fix, and how that shows up in every part of your life.
yeah,
Brain tumor or no brain tumor, we don't know how much we have. And so it was for me the idea of releasing the pace altogether. It's not about living life fast. It's not about living life slow. It is about, um, I say a lot, it's caring more and caring less. You choose what you want to care about. Um, for me, connection is incredibly important. Making people feel warmth and
yeah,
heard and listened to and understood, um and maybe that is part of it. But so for me, that means if you come over to my house, I'm probably going to serve you frozen pizza, because I can't make you feel heard and warm and understood if I'm like frenetic about the mushrooms burning or whatever,
mm-hmm,
um and sauteing stuff left and right. And I'm not a great multitasker. So, but that was the real, that for me felt very hypocritical, in terms of like, that doesn't feel slow. You're reheating, frozen pizza or whatever. That's not like the slow way to do things, right? I
mm-hmm,
should be starting the sourdough and all of that. But if you're defining what slow means to you and what slow feels like to you, then you're writing that definition for yourself. And that definition for me was very much connection over truly anything else,
yeah,
so if that means plastic flatware at the table, and we're going to just throw it together,
Mm.
then that's that.
I love that because you also talk about embarrassment. There's a sentence that I really related to. You said you have to die to yourself in a way. You have to die of embarrassment. You have to die of your need for control, your desire to hide away all your insecurities. And I felt that very deeply because I think you have this period of life, I think, maybe not everybody does, but more so that you do have some more control, over the parts of of yourself that you show to the world. And um and then you sort of get to this point, and for me it was motherhood, where I'm like, my stuff's not clean, people are coming, they're here, and your kid is screaming in the store, and whatever the thing is. I mean, I've got this podcast. I think we talked about. Oh, I don't even know if I said it at the beginning, but I recorded 11 episodes, and the sound quality's awful. And it was a Zoom setting, and I didn't know. We couldn't figure it out, and like you're just embarrassed. You're embarrassed all the time because there's too many things going on, and you just can't really nail it all down, and you just feel embarrassed. And who the lady that started Spanx, Sarah Blakely, she says that's one of the three big fears are fear of failure, fear of public speaking, and fear of being embarrassed, And so you get this life and you're like, oh, I want to cook you a good meal, but here's your frozen pizza.
Totally.
Um, but you chose a relationship.
Yeah.
And
And you know what's so funny is I remember hearing, I felt so validated when I heard this. I was on a panel with, there was like a slow food chef, and then there was like a slow living expert or whatever. And then there's me. And the slow food chef talked about um, how he was like a big deal, right? Like a started in Italy kind of thing, like gourmet everything, artisan everything. I mean, whatever words you can put in front of the fancy bread, he was that.
mhm,
And he had said he would really rather see a family eating dinner over McDonald's takeout than a person shoveling a free range organic chicken, whatever salad in their mouth over their desk during their lunch hour by themselves.
aw,
He would rather see it
wow,
because meal and food and
yeah,
it's nourishment and what's nourishing about, the fast way sometimes. So I felt like frozen pizza
I
always.
really like that. I
Yeah, yeah,
really like that.
yeah. It felt
That's
good for me to
something to
hear.
remember.
Mhm.
That's something to remember. I love that. I want to. There was so much in your book. I'm saying it again because we're heading into the holidays. I just think Erin's book is such a. I mean, it'd be a great gift. It was such a moving book. I'm trying to see how much time. There's two last things I really want to talk about.
Okay.
I think we've got time for it. Um, okay, one of them I'm not going to be able to pronounce, but it's that broken pottery concept, um, where they
Oh,
put the pottery.
kintsugi.
Thank you. Okay, there
I
we
don't
go.
know if I'm pronouncing it correctly either. I
I
know how
think
it's
that
written.
looks right to me. Kintsugi, and it's this concept of, well, what can you tell us about it?
Yeah,
You have a
it's just the
beautiful picture in your book
idea,
about it.
the idea that the crack in pottery, is not, in Japan, it's not a flaw in the pot or in the ceramic, right? It's something that they highlight and they repaint it with gold just to highlight the fact that it is has been broken and put back together and now made beautiful, right? And but it's
Mm,
the idea that the crack itself is the beauty, right? The
yeah,
flaw is the beauty. It's not beautiful despite the flaw, it's beautiful because the flaw. And that I remember when my friend telling me about that, just that feeling monumental to me, just that, all of our stories, everything that we've been through, everything our kids are going through, it
mm,
is all part of the pivot. It's all can be fueled into the next thing and to be
yeah.
used, and to be painted gold and to be really to shine someday
Yeah.
in a different way.
I really got that out of your story, which the book is just so much to it. I mean, it's like your biography, autobiography. It's just so you have this overhead view of like, oh, she married this man with a brain tumor, and you see all of this, this stuff, this snowball. And then, we also bought a home at the height of the market, and everything. And then everything crashed 5 years later. Like, you think you're doing the right thing and everyone says invest. And then our home was worth $100,000 less than when we bought it for. And it was super cheap to begin with, so you see this like thing that looks like it's going to crash and burn,
Yeah.
but it doesn't, and
Yeah.
that becomes this beautiful, yeah, beautiful broken pottery with the gold etching, and the picture of it in your book is so pretty. It really stands out. So um, that, you know, that maybe it's not failure. It's just a piece of the puzzle. It's just a part of the story, and
Exactly.
that the end
Yeah.
piece, the end piece is
Yeah.
still worthy
Yes.
and beautiful in its own unique way. So I loved that. There, and then this last part you talk about, I really related to this actually. You say in a society that places a disproportionate emphasis on productivity, there is a true and real fear of slowing down. Will we be replaced, left behind, disrespected by the masses, whispered about in cubicles? Will we be cast aside for not pulling our weight, for not keeping up with the pace, for not playing by the rules? And I related to that.
Mm.
I think that you put good words to the fears that are there because those are the realistic fears. Um, will we be cast aside for not pulling our weight? And I think in relationships or at work or those types of things. So, um, do you have answers? Do you have thoughts on squelching those fears, that are so
You
real and
know,
really exist?
I feel like that this has kind of been my heartbeat for about 5 years. Well, because it's funny, I have a lot of thoughts on this, but yes, having kind of walked away from it's funny, you can leave the rat race of your career, right?
And you did that.
I did that.
Which, I
The
mean, that's mouth dropping. I mean, in the book, you're kind of like, well, wait, you know, you were like in the limelight.
Yes.
Well, and now
But
you're in
it's so
Indiana.
funny. But it's so funny. There are so many different limelights. That's what I found. There are so many
Mhm,
different rat races. And so, you leave one and you enter another. And for me, um, even just doing the work online felt like just being quote unquote influential on the internet felt like a rat race to me.
mhm.
And walking away from that does cost a lot. And I think you have to truly know your purpose, and you have to believe that the reason you're doing it is worth it no matter what's on the other side. For me, I didn't feel like participating in internet discourse or positioning my life as a certain way or talking about it nonstop or marketing or strategy, all of it. I just like to write, I just like telling
Mm.
stories. And so for me to kind of keep up with all of the stuff that goes with storytelling, um, felt as if I was sacrificing a little bit of my soul. I mean, that sounds very dramatic, but it did
Yeah,
truly on a day to day. But it
yeah.
wasn't. Um, and I think we get into the trap of, well, we can do it, so we should. It's easy to do it, so we should. It's not hard. It wasn't hard to do. It just didn't feel right.
Mm.
And I think life has to feel right. For our values, it has to be pointing us towards something true. And that didn't feel like it was for me. Um, so to tell you the truth, yeah, you do feel a little left behind, you feel like um doing things a different way causes a lot of tension. It makes things harder.
Mhm.
Um, but at the same time, living this quieter life, saying no to a lot of things that I might have said yes to before because they sounded good or they would have brought in a
And maybe they
larger,
are good. They even
they are
are good
good.
things.
They are good things. Yeah, they
Yeah.
just sometimes they just don't fit anymore,
Mhm,
Sometimes it's like like the jeans I can't wear anymore. Like they just don't fit. And so
mhm.
um I yeah, I think for me, I can unequivocally say that following that true north for me and walking away from many iterations of what my life had looked like, um, it always leads somewhere new. It's
Mm,
not ever that it's over or that it's forgotten, or I still feel like very much my past has fueled me into the reasons why I do the things I do now. And it's
yeah.
opened me up to so many different wonderful things. You know, part of what I do now is Other Goose. I get to teach other people how to start homeschooling if they want to. I get to write other authors' stories. I get to edit
Amazing.
other authors' stories. I get to kind of let other people be in their limelight, because if they're
Mm,
in the season where they're enjoying it, um, it's a real gift to me to be able to support that. So,
yeah.
you know, volunteering at other people's conferences, all those things that just you get to. I don't know.
Wow.
I feel like a lot of times our culture thinks the strongest people are the ones on top, but they all need a base, you know. And I
Mhm.
found that I really like to be the base. I like to be the behind the scenes and the support beam and cheer everybody else on. I like that. So,
Yeah.
it's been good for me. It's been really good for me.
There's a beautiful answer to the question because, the question is, will I get left behind? You know, you know, will I be disrespected? What if I don't play by the rules? And your answer is it's going to look like how it's supposed to look for you,
Yeah.
you know. And
Yeah.
that I think that theme of your book is so encouraging, that we can go our own way and um I guess throughout the whole book, I'm kind of like, well, what's going to happen next? This is exciting. In the moment, it probably was very scary,
Yeah.
and feels risky. And, um, but then, you read it and you're like, oh, things turned out okay. And they turned out beautiful and they turned out different. And I don't know why, I just loved it. Well, okay.
Thank
So we talked
you.
about, you talked a little bit about Other Goose. So let's just take a quick minute. And if people are looking to find you, I think a lot of people have already found you, but, uh, we found each other at Wild and Free,
Yes.
which is so fun. And if other people are looking to find you, your book, and Other Goose, and your blog, where are good places for them to go?
So mostly I am just at othergoose.com, but I do still blog at designformankind.com every now and then. I don't really participate in Instagram or social platforms anymore,
Mhm.
at least not right now. But yes, Other Goose is more it's just really for people that are interested in beginning homeschooling. If
I
for
saw
parents,
it. It's great. It's for ages, you're geared toward ages 2 to 7.
yeah.
And I think it's a really big need because, actually, this circles back to what we first talked about. I do think that as your kids grow, especially if you're a home educating family or a family that really values play, as your kids grow, you do become less scared because
Mhm.
you see that they're fine.
Yeah,
Like for our oldest, I mean, our kids, we don't start to do reading instruction until 7. And, for the first kid, I'm super scared. But, for the younger kids, I'm not scared at all. We've already
totally.
done it once. So you see a lot of these parents, of a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old, and, oh, it's their first kid, and what do I do? And, they got a couple kids and, a couple young ones. And I think, for someone to come along and hold their hand and to give them a process. And so you have I saw you, it's like reading, you have a base of reading, play, there's the little lesson, but it's not
Yeah,
super long.
totally.
Yeah,
There's no like supply list. It's not
yeah.
this is basically for every parent that says like what curriculum should I use? And it's
Hmm.
the answer of you don't need a curriculum, but
Yeah,
it's in a curriculum. If
yeah,
that makes sense.
right.
Because I feel
Yes.
like we all need
They
that.
need that reassurance.
You do. You need to
And they
feel
need
productive.
something, like, because then everyone asks you what you're doing. And,
Totally.
so this would even be good for a family that was considering to home educate. I mean, if they've got a
Yeah.
2-year-old at home or 3-year-old, 4-year-old, those early years up through, first grade or so. So it's othergoose.com.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can just get in there
Um,
and
a
practice.
great answer. Yeah, for sure. And it's inexpensive.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah, just a monthly fee I saw, or people can pay annually for the year. So,
Hmm.
um, what a gift to give parents. That's the question people ask all the time. When their kid is 3, what curriculum should I get? So,
I know.
yeah,
Yes.
what a
It
way to meet
it
a need, Erin. That's really cool.
it's been really fun. I really loved it.
Yeah, yeah. And then your book, I got it on Amazon, so I'm sure that it's
Oh,
everywhere. But really a
thank
beautiful
you.
book, great gift for the holidays, Chasing Slow,
Thank
courage. We
you.
all need courage, right? Courage to journey off the beaten path. Um, and then people can they find your old TV show?
They
Is it still
probably
somewhere?
can. I'm
Okay.
sure if you
Well,
Google it, yeah, if you
okay.
just Google HGTV.com and my name, I bet it'll pop
Yeah,
out. I don't know.
I
It
gotta
feels
watch it.
so old now. It's like
Yeah.
10 years ago.
Wow, it's so neat. Can we end with a favorite childhood memory of yours outside, a favorite playing memory that
Ooh,
you
I
have?
love that. Oh my gosh. Yes. I the first time I could ever venture out, I would, ride. It's so funny because I don't ride bikes as an adult. I feel like I never adequately learned how to ride a bike as a child. But anyway, I was allowed to go mailbox to mailbox, and that was it, right? I lived in a little like subdivision, and I remember riding a bike past the mailbox like I wasn't supposed to and getting caught in a rainstorm. And for some reason, I thought that if you were in a rainstorm, you should go like under a tree for cover. I
Hmm.
don't know. I just
Yeah,
not thinking of lightning,
the
right?
leaves are gonna catch all the rain. No, you're good.
I
Yeah.
don't know. And so I did. I went for cover under the pine tree that was just a little bit past the mailbox, and then I could blame it on the rain, right? Like if I got caught by my parents
Hmm.
disobeying. And I know it was only, 5 to 10 minutes of a storm, but being under there with the pine tree kind of as a shelter, and I'm all huddled and chilly and um, totally by myself. And it's just, the pounding of the rain and then just the breeze and all of it. It felt like I had been under there for 2 hours. It was for sure 5 minutes at the most. And then I just hopped back in my bike and went home, and it felt like this secret, like
It was your adventure,
it was an adventure. I
all
know,
on your
I
all on
felt
your
like all
own.
I needed was, a compass and bread or something. But it was, yeah, it's for sure my favorite
Don't you
outdoor
I
memory.
just love that. I mean, it couldn't be more simple
Oh,
or
yeah,
random.
I know.
You
I
know,
know.
you
There
know,
was
don't we
nothing
try
involved.
like as parents we try and do like so many things for our kids, and then sometimes I'm like, my parents are probably like, what the heck? That's your favorite memory? You know,
Totally. Totally. We took you
when
to
we
the
weren't
tide
right.
pools and like
It's
you
when
just
we
wanted the
weren't
pine tree.
together.
Totally.
Yeah, but it's a powerful reminder that
Yeah.
simple things are so impactful for kids. So, um, I just love, love, love that I've gotten to know you a little bit better, and I love your book. It will sit with me for my life. I got so much
Oh.
out of it, and I'm excited for where our path goes. I think we'll stay connected, and
Oh,
um,
I hope so. I
yeah,
just love you, Jenny. I love your family. I'm gonna have to RV my way over to you.
I'm excited. Is
And
it up and going? Is the RV up and going?
no, we're still waiting.
Okay, the
I
yellow.
can't wait.
Is it yellow? Is it still yellow?
It's yellow.
Okay, the yellow
Yeah.
RV. That's awesome. Well, thank you, Erin. I really appreciate your time. Thanks for being on.
Thank you, Jenny.